Secretary of State Antony Blinken, along with U.S. negotiators. Let's get more now. We can go live to Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, President of the Middle East Policy Council. Always great to have you here on the program. We saw those protests, a general strike today in Israel, maybe not as big as some had been predicting, but what did you make of what we saw today in Israel and the level of pressure the Prime Minister is under?
Well, the protests were certainly heartfelt and extraordinarily large, but I am reminded of the fact that some of the largest demonstrations against the Iraq War in the early 2000s were in the United States, and it did not change policy. The Prime Minister is not under pressure unless the country really is brought to a standstill by these protests, which apparently is not something that is going to happen soon. Because the Knesset is out, his coalition remains firm. What he is doing allows him to continue in place. So the pressure, while ramping up, certainly from the domestic side, is not enough to get him to change his mind or remove him from power.
And Ambassador, today there was this moment with President Biden here in the U.S. He was asked by reporters whether or not Netanyahu is doing enough to secure a ceasefire and hostage deal. He simply said no. Do you agree with the president?
Well, the president often speaks frankly and truthfully, and I would not disagree with his assessment by any means. It is a widespread shared assessment from U.S. leaders as well as many in the Israeli public and certainly in the international community. If the priority is saving lives and finding a way out of this continuous circuit of violence, tit for tat, then a deal needs to happen. The Prime Minister's position makes very clear that the rest of the hostages' lives are in jeopardy, in serious jeopardy. Hamas has made clear it is willing to pay the price. The Israeli government, in continuing to target Hamas leaders, including the negotiator in Doha, and kill them, makes it clear that there is no reason not to kill the hostages if indeed they are not going to be able to stop the war, to get a ceasefire in exchange. And the Israeli government has made clear that the ceasefire is going to be one that is temporary. Certainly having Israeli forces left inside the Gaza Strip is something that Sinwar would find it very difficult to accept.
Yeah, there's still these major sticking points here. The negotiations still continue. The Biden administration now saying that this latest proposal will be what they're calling a take it or leave it deal. Do you think that this is kind of the last hope here, the last hurrah maybe for a deal to actually get done?
For that take it or leave it to be taken seriously, there will have to be some very tough conversations in private about exactly what that means, whether the United States is going to continue to put our reputation, our treasure, our men and women in the armed forces at risk as we continue to stand by Israel in these difficult times. There are going to be conversations about that. The answer may be that it's take it or leave it for this moment, but diplomacy always tries to find another day to move the ball forward. I would be very surprised if indeed that is the case, that anybody walks away. And under very difficult circumstances, even after the assassination of Haniyeh, Hamas didn't walk away. So there is some drive to find a diplomatic resolution to this.
Also on Monday, the UK announced it's suspending some weapons exports to Israel, saying there's a risk they could be used in violation of international law. What do you think that says now about the state of support, international support for Israel's war effort there in Gaza?
Yeah. Well, the support has steadily declined over these last 11 months. Many are horrified at the loss of life on the Gaza side, knowing that it's going to take billions of dollars to reconstruct the Gaza Strip, and someone's going to have to pay for that. And indeed, the discomfiture, of the hostages, but also keeping in mind that Tens of thousands of Israelis have been displaced as the conflict with Hezbollah has gone on, the dangers that are always apparent to the rest of the region. So all of that has lessened support for the way that the government of Israel has conducted this conflict. Many states are going to be looking at their own culpability, and including the United States for sure, looking at how this affects our own laws and our culpability in how this conflict is paying out.
Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, president of the Middle East Policy Council. Thank you as always.
Thank you.